Yo, welcome to another episode of the Larry Ohh Show. Co-host with me, as always.
How's it going? It's John Phelps.
And I'm Larry Ohh. It's an FL Studio podcast meant for all music producers that use FL Studio. We talk about everything FL and music production.
Right.
Got a great episode today. A couple of great episodes. The last couple, we just talked about the mixer. We talked about the piano roll. Did a bunch of giveaways. We're going to be doing another giveaway. Going to be giving away all my FL Studio courses, as well as this session and this FLP to 5 people in the comments. All you got to do to enter is comment keyword here on YouTube. Somewhere in this episode, we'll stop, drop the keyword or the key phrase, enter it in the comments, picking 5 winners next week. We'll pin the winners in the comment.
Go get you some, because there's no other podcast doing this.
This week, we're going to be talking about 808s, a good topic. There's a lot of new beginner producers, intermediate producers that have a hard time. I mentioned it last week or the week before. I said, like, you know, it's all about finding the right 808 because of the harmonics. I don't know if you remember me saying that, but like sometimes the 808 can sound good. You know that it's in the right key. You know that everything is right, but there's just something about it that doesn't mesh well between the 808 and the melodies and the drums that you have going on in that session, in that beat. A lot of times it has to do with the harmonics.
And you can tell right away, like as you get better and better with like going through your kits and where you're getting your 808s from, like you can tell right away when it's going to be a good fit versus when it's not. Like you'll start to know exactly how you would rework the thing to fit. But sometimes you find out when you're auditioning your 808s and trying different stuff out, some juice ain't worth the squeeze with the 808s. You just gotta, you know, let it work. If it works, if it doesn't work, you gotta find something else. You know, you might just end up using that Spins 808. Calling it a day.
That's the thing with me, man. The Spins, I don't have, I mean, I probably can find it in the cloud, but I don't have the Spins on this laptop. I bet you there's a Spins version, like variant inside the cloud somewhere.
For sure.
If we need it, we'll go to it.
We should get him on the pod, yo.
I know, that would be nuts.
Spins would be nuts.
But yeah, we'll go through some 808s. I think the session that we had in here from last week, we didn't really add drum. Well, we added some drums, light drums. We were talking about the piano roll, so it's just kind of like a skeleton of a session.
Right.
There's no 808 in here, so I think we could use this to look and search through 808s.
Sure.
I think my process, I don't know about your processes, but like I get to this point where I have a melody and I know that I want to start like building the rhythm section. So I'll start going through 808s and I'll hit play and then I'll audition 808. So I'll just bring one in, find the right 808 pattern, even if it's not the right 808, make sure it's tuned, find the right pattern, the right bounce. And then if I'm not in love with that 808 sample, I'll just like quickly audition new samples, like one after another. How do you go about it?
It depends a little bit, but usually I'll get it to this point here where it's like got the chord line, the hats. I usually get the hats out the way, the kicks. And then the 808, really, I'll just go through like whatever folder I'm kind of feeling at the time, and whatever one jumps out immediately, that's the one I go for. A lot of times when I'm making beats, I'm also writing at the same time.
Yeah, that's the thing that's different with you.
So I'll get the vibe going with the beat, and then I'll start writing some reps. And then when I get tired of that, I'll just go back to putting some additional percussions in or whatever. So I'm kind of thinking about the format of the song as I go.
This is in C. This is kind of spins-ish, I think.
Spins-esque.
Send it to the mixer. I'll go and make sure I'm in the same pattern most of the time. Like, let's say I've already separated these patterns. Because this is the process, bro. Like, people want to know. Producers, I know when I was at a certain level, I wanted to know, like, what's the process? Like, what is a good process and a good, like, workflow to get into? You know, if I got split mixer tracks going on, I'll still go back to, like, the main melody, maybe the chord progression. That main chord progression that maybe has that bass note that I'm almost positive the 808's gonna follow that, right? I'll go back to that pattern and I'll do the 808 in that pattern. That way I can use the ghost notes of that chord progression. And we know that we're tuned, but I'll do it in a higher octave. It seems like that bass note down there is either gonna be G sharp or D sharp.
Another little hack for the 808s is like, you can not only go with the bass note of whatever chord, but if you see that there's like a note that seems to be really prevalent in the whole progression, so like that D sharp looks like it's pretty constant, sometimes that'll be my 808. You know what I mean? Wherever.
That sounds good.
Yeah, for sure.
And now I'm just listening. When I'm making this 808 pattern, I'm just kind of going off the vibe of that chord progression and finding something that will complement it in a way. Like, I don't want to overdo the 808s. You don't want to put a whole bunch, you know, like different notes in there just for the sake of putting a bunch of different notes. If it sounds good where it's just literally at that G sharp the whole time, then it sounds good. But then I'll also make like a B section of the 808 a lot of times too, so it doesn't get so repetitive. So this section right here is 4 bars. I might do like an 8-bar 808 loop, but start it in here extend it in another one. But I'll use this as a little, again, like a little cheat sheet with the ghost notes, so that way I can make sure I get the notes right. I can see what else is in there if I want to accent.
Thing I want to part 2 our episode that came out last week.
Yeah.
We did editable ghosts.
Yeah.
Here's my beef with editable ghosts right now.
Yeah.
You can't highlight more than one thing.
Oh, no?
No. I was like, I want to move all these up or down or whatever, and I couldn't do it. And I was like,
so you're limited.
We need a little update on that, FL.
So you're limited.
If I could highlight each one of them joints on the other channel and move them around, that would be
that'd
banging.
Be nice. Yeah, so you can't like highlight a bunch.
No. I went for it and I was like, dang, that would have been it. That would have been it. But you know, these, as far as I know, it's a relatively new feature.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's new for sure.
So,
but that G sharp just sounds good. Make sure that you choose a grid. Like the lower you go over here, the more I would say like bigger the snaps are.
Okay.
So you can't get
like
so fine tuned.
out kind of thing?
Like right here, a quarter step is like super fine tuned. You can see how small these lines go, and it's gonna go literally every little quarter step. But when I'm doing it just to start out, I think quarter beat is like a good middle ground. That way I don't mess up and put something in that's off grid, and then I have to zoom in to nudge it. Like quarter note's a good middle ground. If you want to do some really fast stuff, then I'll go in and change it. Or if I want to do like a triplet vibe, I'll go in and change it to a third or a sixth. But I'm thinking that I want to go down to D sharp, I think. Like I want to have that almost like a call and response 808. I'll copy and paste that over. Maybe like another note.
Give a little slide somewhere.
Yeah.
Show them a quick slide, Larry. An 808 slide. We need one of them. You want this video to go up? Put a slide in it. Yo, watch this.
Then, like I said, to make that longer, I will split my channel on that one. I'll take the 808 and then I'll probably extend it, double the length, go into that, copy and paste it, and then do something different on the second half. Also want to see how it sounds in a lower octave. Might be too low. Again, with the harmonics, like I think the G sharp might sound good, but the D sharp is going to sound, nah, that's too low. Maybe a little key change on this part. And then I'll play it from here so I don't have to listen to the whole thing over and over again.
I think that note down low. Bing, bing. And then,
which one, D?
I think it was that one that you were playing. And then instead of having it up there, you just have it down. That shit sounded cool.
Maybe just staying at D sharp.
Always. I'm a big 808, leave it at the noter. You know what I mean? I'm a notorious 808 stays in the pocket. Because what I like about it is that you can get a nice rhythm going if your bass is just hitting one note. You know what I'm saying? It almost feels like the beat can go on for like forever.
Yeah. So that's the other option too. Like instead of going down to that D sharp, you could like
just rock it out on that.
You could leave everything. Like it sounds good staying at G sharp the whole time too.
Try out that what was it, the E? Just leave it on the E. I want to hear what that was.
E? I don't think E was in the scale.
It was either E.
D maybe sharp.
To me, that's subtle. You know what I'm saying? I would do that with a different 808 though. Going back into your 808 selection, it's like for me when I hear that 808, it's kind of more of like between the notes. But I like a good like not too much distortion going on and like leaving that in the pocket. You know what I'm saying? Like a clean like deep sounding 808, maybe a spins 808.
This one right here that we're using is very similar to a spins. Like it has that like that.
The one that I got, I'll have to bring my 808 in like a pet or something.
Spins. Let me see if the clouds got it. Spins, goat spins. See how similar that is?
But that ain't the one that I got. The spins that I got has more of just like almost like a sub bass kind of feeling to it, which is very different from like a distorted 808 sound, because you've got like kicks, you've got 808s, and you've got sub basses that kind of take up the low drum frequencies, you know what I'm saying, or the low rhythmic frequencies. And I'll like sometimes I'll use a few different 808s in one pattern, maybe like 2 or 3, depending on
that's
what the
a cool
function
idea
is
too.
of it.
Yeah. Yep. You can do like a shorter one and a longer one.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like that's kind of fire to do.
And if they ever like, there was like some stuff that I used to do back in the day where like, because I wouldn't use piano roll, I would just be in the step sequencer. And when the frequencies of the different 808s clash, you can like say if you went into your piano roll, put a note there and turn the velocity all the way down and make sure that it's on cut itself or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And then when that gets triggered, it just kills the signal.
Yeah.
So it's like a hard cut. Before I knew like how to do hard cuts and stuff, that's the way that I would do it.
So that would be like instead of you doing the box on the on this.
Yeah. So like if you go into the piano roll and you want to like cut one of those long ones short, you would just put like a second note like immediately after like wherever you want it to cut off, right? And then turn the velocity all the way down, and it'll cut the signal of that thing completely.
Yep.
Especially if you got what is it? If you go to the sample, it'll have exactly, it cuts it off. And the thing is, it'll have the tail of the sample. So like if you don't box it, there will be like the tail at the end of it. But I think with the box and all that, like you can just have it be like a hard cut. Instead of letting it like play out.
And you could also like mess with the release of that in the
for sure
if you do the box.
For sure.
Then like I like this staying at G sharp. And then maybe on this like towards the end to resolve it, like then it goes down to D sharp. Like something like that. Like you got options, you know. It's like, but you don't have too many options, because the bottom of the chord, you know, the bass notes in the bottom end of the chord progression are, you only have so many options that you could do with an 808. Pattern wise, rhythm wise, I mean, it's different. Like you could have faster rhythm, you can keep it more open, you can make it a little faster. But as far as the progression goes, you only have so many options where those notes can go. You know? Like you can make this faster over here if you wanted to. Like I'm hearing like a faster note here. You can get creative with it. There's so many different things you can do. A good thing to touch on is like the whole cut itself thing. That's something that I should have mentioned when I did it, and maybe dive a little bit deeper into like what happens with the cut itself. Like if you saw me, I didn't mention it, but I went in as soon as I put this 808 in, by habit, I hit cut itself right away. You could do cut itself. What that's going to do is make sure that the next 808 note that you hit doesn't travel and overlap the previous one. So the next one, those two,
or the previous doesn't overlap in the new one, right? Because if you ever run into the issue where like your 808s, you have them in the step sequencer or whatever, and they're muddying into each other, like the sound is playing over the next one, it's likely you haven't turned on the cut self.
Yeah, like you'll be able to hear it. Like I'll turn it off right here.
It'll just go
and then you'll hear a mess.
Like layering up right there.
Yeah, they're all over each other.
I wonder if you went into the sampler and if you just pressed like the mono thing right in the middle there.
This?
Yeah, I wonder if that would cut itself or what that would happen. So
This
if you
is
press
more
play,
of a slide thing.
what'll it do if you press play? Will it Did it mess with the pattern? It did, didn't it? That wasn't how you played that, right? See that bum 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 ain't there. Did the mono mess with the pattern?
It must have, yeah. It just like got rid of some notes.
That's cool. That's interesting. It probably has to do with the amount of that slide too.
Probably.
That's interesting. I'll have to make
because
I'll have to
the
make some beats
SI
like
changed
that.
the velocity here. It might have had something to do with that. That like I'll use this whole polyphony section if I want to like take a stock sound or like and make it sound like it has that glide into every other note. I use it more with like one shots. If I'm gonna like create melodies and chord progressions out of one shots and I want like a weird slide and glide effect going into the next note, I'll mess around with that a little bit. And you turn it on portamento or mono and you can mess around with this slide.
Mono's good if you know that you just want one note playing at a time and they're kind of spaced out the way that, you know, you got like a little, you know. I'll use that with my arpeggiators too. If I'll do a mono signal and with the slide on, it just makes like just a weird quality to it. You know, there's no...
We'll do a keyword today. It has to be 808. We're talking about 808s. Today's keyword is 808. Comment that down in the comment section on YouTube, and we're going to be picking 5 winners to win every single one of my FL courses from YouHelpMe.com, as well as this session, so you can kind of break it down, reverse engineer it, mess around with the melody, whatever you want to do, you can have it. So make sure you drop that in the comment section. But back to that 808, and we were talking about the cut itself. So there's 2 different ways that you can make sure the next note, that the previous note doesn't tail into the next note. Cut itself is one, and then you can kind of make these however long you want to make them. It's just know that the next one's just going to cut the previous one off. If you want to do the box that we were talking about, you'd have to go attack all the way down, hold all the way up, decay down, sustain down, release all the way down. And now when you hit the note, when you let it go,
It's gone.
It's a hard cut right then and there. But what also happens is you have to make sure that the length of the note in the piano roll is the length that you want on the 808, or else it will get cut off like that. Which you might want that sound. And let's say you did that mid, you cooking up and in the middle of you making that 808 pattern, and you want to make sure all those notes go full length. Legato, Control L, shortcut. It'll make it all nice and full length notes in there. If you wanted to make like an easy, quick 808, you can make it with 3X Oscillator. It's not going to be the greatest 808, I don't feel like, but like...
Yeah, I mean, you could tune a nice kick and a sub bass or, like a 3X bass together, and you could print it and then resample that. That might be one way that you could make your own 808.
Yep, I would just use a sine wave, but turn these other 2 oscillators off so you only have the one. That's going to leave you with that. Or have you ever used like a square?
Yeah, yep. I've done some weird 808s, like ones that have like oscillation in them, everything, bro. There's like really no limit to it at all, you know?
You can use any one of these kind of waves.
Use them all.
Like I'll use that, but then you go in here and you go to the envelope, and then you can start messing with this a little bit. So like when you hit it, has that little bit of a tail to it, maybe sustain or the release up.
Right.
And this is a very quick, shortened version of how I would make an 808. But
now the thing about this, right, is that it's a MIDI, so the cut itself doesn't work with that. The workaround I was talking about was you get it to sound good with just like your regular C note, print that and use that the same way that you would use any 808 from a VST. And an easy way to do that is our buddy Edison.
Yep.
We don't use Edison to track vocals over here.
No, just the sample.
Just a sample there.
So like I would go turn on record and just hit a C, but like quick, don't hold it. Just like kind of let it go so it does that tail out.
Make it sound like an 808.
Do maybe a couple of different variations. You have a really short one. So it gives you a couple different options here. Choose one. Like this is only for people that want a sound design. I'll tell you straight up, like I normally don't do this. I know how to do it.
Right.
or, you know,
And
loosely, but
I think people should know. They should know elementally what is out there.
Yep.
And then on top of that, like, come on, nobody wants to hear beats made with all the same shit all the time. That's kind of like, that's kind of redundant.
make sure that it's just starting right at the very beginning of that wave, and then click and drag it into the channel rack. And then from here, then you could start shaping it. And then this is where I would like start manipulating it, and maybe I'll normalize it. I'll add some like clipping.
Smooth.
Throw it to the mixer. Like, that's not too shabby. That's like the gist of it. All I did was just throw Fruity
banging.
Blood overdrive.
That's banging right there.
You know? And then we got this. We're in C because we recorded it in C. Remember that? When we hit record, we recorded it in C. So that also takes the step out that you don't have to tune it. It's already tuned to C.
Right.
And like I said, this ain't gonna be like the greatest 808. I'm not spending a ton of time here on it, but go down an octave on this. Cut itself. And an 808 like this, I'd probably throw a kick with it.
Yeah, I mean that's all the 808 is this like a sub frequency or like a synth bass sound with a tail on it with a kick at the front.
Yep.
So really, like your different 808s are just different like bass notes, or like, you know, qualities of bass note, meaning like some have distortion, some have tail, some have less tail, and then with a kick on top of it. You know, you blend the kick and the bass note together and you create an 808 with it.
Yep.
Or we'll call it an 808 because the 808 is from like a specific drum machine.
Yeah.
It was like what was it? The MPC or Roland, right? The Roland 808.
Yeah, so like you could essentially, if you wanted to.
That's crazy. That's awesome.
Like you could resample this. Like that's not a bad 808.
Right.
And I mean,
from scratch. Here's how to make your 808s from scratch.
Then you could resample it with the kick if you wanted to as well. The way I would probably go about that, I'll probably go to a new pattern and then just do literally a kick and one hit of an 808. Add a C, maybe mess with it a little bit. The volume. Maybe you could adjust the sample start time.
You could clip out the kick.
I would adjust the sample start time maybe on the 808. I'll leave it as is. I'll send it to the same mixer track. Normally I wouldn't, but then I will, because we added distortion on here too. Remember, like we added that distortion and that hasn't been printed yet to make it its own sample. I'm going to take the kick, that 808 that we made with the distortion on it that we added with Fruity Blood overdrive, and then sample that. I'll hit play. So now those are together. Now again, we'll go in here, get rid of that, delete, 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 delete.
Get it out of here.
And then I'll send this one to the channel rack as its own sample. I mean, you could keep going on and on and on.
For real.
You know, mute those. Oh, it didn't come in. Oh, I chose blank space to come in. That's why. Yep, make sure you're actually choosing the sample.
Here's a good 808 for you.
Yeah. Bro, that don't sound too bad.
No,
I got weird headphones on right now, but it doesn't sound too bad to me.
It sounds fucking good.
Right?
You know what I mean? Like,
so then,
you can make beats with that.
Bro.
That's a beat.
I mean, you could spend a lot of time on it that I don't really have right now. You got any other 808 gems you want to drop?
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is that, like, what a lot of people don't understand about 808s is that they're not sub bass usually. You know what I'm saying? And what I think I hear a lot of times is that people could be putting sub basses in addition to their 808s. And like your kicks, your sub bass, your 808s are all in these different pockets, like the frequency pockets. And I think that to sort of add like a nice floor to it, one thing that I would recommend is just like use 3X oscillator, pull up, make a sub bass, and add a nice floor to whatever you got going on.
Yep. I love using the sub bass. I'll either do it with the 3X oscillator, or I'll find, I don't know, maybe I'll go through Flex, or sometimes I'll use Silent for it. Silent, like OG plugin right there that I'll go to for real synthy stuff. So there's some beats that call for it where it's not like an 808 type of beat.
Right.
And you got to go sub bass with it. Maybe next week we'll do a play-by-play. We kind of bounced the idea around today of doing a play-by-play, but then we thought of the 808 thing. So next week, let us know if you want to do another play-by-play episode where we just literally just cook up pass the laptop back and forth and just do a little bit of play-by-play about how and what we're doing and why we're doing it.
Come on,
Let us
yo.
know if you want to do that. Also, make sure that you comment the key phrase and the key word today. Again, thanks for watching. And if you haven't already, please make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and as always, share this with a friend if
You get me.